Good evening, everyone. Time for another silver update. Well, we had the Fed minutes released today at 2 p.m. and I have to announce that this has convinced me that the Fed is serious about collapsing things, going into a deflation, and for that reason I expect silver to have topped and collapsed from here. I've sold all my silver, gone long in dollars, and this is going to be the turning point. Psych, gotcha. Anyway, so let's look at the 2 p.m. Action from the Fed minions here. And you can see when we go in right to that 2 p.m. point, this first red line here, that's 14.00.00. So apparently the algos could read very quickly, but that's when the volume came in, and boy, was that a lot of volume. Now we're going to get into the issue of the net Dania volume. It's been a controversy, and I wanted to look at the volume spikes that we saw before. If you remember, in some of my last video, I talked about this volume spike here. You can see it is simply dwarfed by the volume we're looking at right now. And if we go out to the 2 hour, we can see this amazing 1 million plus print on the volume, and you can see we're now rallying. But so what does that mean? That's very, very important. And before we go and start to examine the volume information, let's go over to Silver Doctors and revisit a story that was back on the 28th of February in 2012. And this is Net Dania responding to a Silver Doctor's inquiry about the volume. And it says, last Friday evening we reported the cartel had apparently dumped 102 million ounces of paper silver in a span of 7 minutes during Globex trading. And then Net Dania responds, and this is the key to the Net Dania response. Please note that the numbers represent the trading volume from some of the top 5 liquidity providers. So that's going to be about the depth of it. Now you can read all the comments as people debate this, and there's a lot of debate about that. So before we go and examine the COMEX volume, I want you to look at the Net Dania definitions. And so Net Dania has, under their markets listing for their data, they say, in cooperation with our partners, we provide real-time and delayed equity, warrant, fund, bond, futures, indices, option data from major exchanges of, and then here are all the exchanges. They include all the Asian Pacific exchanges, the North America exchanges, and the European exchanges. You have to remember that it's not just the COMEX, and we're going to be looking at the COMEX here in a second. But then we have Forex and metals. This is going to be where the data comes from. Over-the-counter and interbank prices, money markets, forwards, derivatives from major global banks and brokerages in Europe, North America, and the Far East. Services are provided as premium feeds, usually for closed user groups. So the debate, of course, is going to be, is that the number of contracts? Now, I'm still in the camp that I believe that that actually is the number of contracts. I don't know that that's true. I suspect that that's true, but that's an estimate from everything added together. But I can't say for sure, so I'm just guessing on that. But we have clearly here a 1 million spike on the Net Dania. So let's look at the Merc. Okay, the Merc is going to be the Globex platform. Now we're going to look at that when we see the numbers from the COMEX and the Globex explanation. But let's go over to that right now and look at that. So this is the silver contract reported by the CME group, and you can see that the active month for silver is going to be March 13th. That's the nearby active month. And you can see when you look at these numbers here, this is the kind of stuff that Harvey Organ and Ted Butler and the others look at. And you can see the total volume. The total volume is the number of contracts traded on the selected date for all CME Group venues, including Globex, Open Outcry, Clearpoint, PNT, and all other executions. Now, there's a number of things I want to point out here that are very interesting. The first thing, well, I just knocked it off here. The first thing I want to look at is the Open Outcry. Now, the Open Outcry is the trading floor. This is the traditional futures market floor. You've seen the pictures with the guys standing and screaming at each other in a pit and holding up fingers and signs and yelling and screaming. That's Open Outcry. That's the futures market. That's a real trading floor. Now you can see that the numbers for that represent 370. Whereas the Globex trading was 72,814. So if you figure those numbers out, you're going to find out that the Open Outcry market, the futures pit, represents 0.005, or in other words, 99.5% of the trading for silver is done on the Globex. That is the electronic exchange. So before we get to the other anomalies in these numbers, let's go and look at that Globex. And here's your contrast between Open Outcry and electronic trading. Open Outcry. Operating during regular trading hours, the Open Outcry method consists of floor traders standing in a trading pit, calling out orders, prices, and quantities of a particular commodity. Different colored jackets are worn by the traders to indicate their function on the floor, etc., etc. So this is completely irrelevant now. It has no impact on the market whatsoever. There's just simply no volume. This is where all the volume is: electronic trading. Operating virtually around the clock today, the CME Globex trading system is at the heart of the CME. Proposed in 1987, that's a very key date. That was the date of Greenspan and the crash of the stock market, and you'll have to chase the Bixware rabbit hole to understand the significance behind that date. It was introduced in 1992 as the first global electronic trading platform for futures contracts. This fully electronic trading system allows market participants to trade from booths at the exchange or while sitting in a home or office thousands of miles away. On October 19, 2004, 1 billionth transaction was recorded. When Globex was first launched, it used Reuters technology and network. September 1998 saw the launch of the second generation of Globex using a modified version of the NSC trading system developed by Paris Bourse for the Matif, now Euronext. To connect to Globex, traders connect via Market Data Protocol and iLink 2.0 for order routing. So that's all of the trading. Not a large percentage, but that's all. Now, supposedly it's 80% of the trading, but we can see that with silver it's actually 99.5% of the trading. So let's go back to our CME silver contract data, and you can see here the open interest. That is the total number of contracts, either long or short, that have been entered into and not yet offset by delivery. Each open transaction has a buyer and a seller, but for calculation of open interest, only one side of the contract is counted. So you can see that the open interest at close for this month, now we want to look at the total figures because you have to remember in futures you have active months, and that's how you get contango or backwardation as you look at those prices. But you can see the total volume here is 97,000 contracts traded today on the CME. Now, the open interest is 155,000. So essentially 2/3 of the open interest traded in one day. Now, as far as the active month, and that's going to be this month of March, you can see the Globex volume, which was essentially all the volume, was 72,814 contracts, and the open interest at close for that month was 47,000. So nearly 150 to 200% of the entire open interest exchanged hands at that point. That's very, very significant. I don't have the time to go and look at platinum, palladium, the soft commodities, but that's highly unusual to have one day of trading actually exceed the entire open interest. You can also see that the open interest for this current month has decreased a little bit, and the open interest for the next major month is going to be May, has increased a little bit. That's as they roll their contracts out. But you can see only 18,000 traded for May, whereas 72,000 traded. Nevertheless, that gives us this total here of 97,000. So we're just going to call it even 100,000 contracts, and that's going to be 500 million ounces of silver. So 500 million ounces of silver is what traded today as the Fed introduced its latest, I will call it talking points or jawboning, because we are now at the point where the Federal Reserve has to resort to jawboning and trying to convince the market that it's actually going to do something, whereas we know that the Fed is pretty much powerless at this point because they've painted themselves into a corner. So we had the coordinated attack. The attack amounted to 1 million volume on Netdania, 100,000 volume on the COMEX. We don't know how much paper silver was traded today. Anywhere from 500 million ounces of paper silver to 5 billion ounces of paper silver. So is this the volume bottom that I was looking for? I can't say for sure. You can see we've actually rivaled it in the past. I took today as an opportunity to add to my short stock positions, and this is just in my little paper trading for fun account. I added to my AGQ long position. I added to my stock short position, and that's based on my analysis that the Fed has painted itself into a corner and is either going to have to choose a complete deflationary wipeout or is going to have to choose a hyperinflationary blowout, or we are at the kind of middling point where the Fed is using essentially useless jawboning to try to move the market. So I also did purchase more physical silver today. I picked up the 2012 Kookaburra Dragon Privy coin. It's a rare issue, but APMEX has a ton of them. It's not going to be something you can piggyback me on because I think they have about 20 or 30,000 of those coins. But I really like the coin. I like the price, and so I bought more. Don't have a lot of dry powder left, and we'll see if this is going to be the bottom for this move. You can see that the volume is absolutely astronomical, similar to this volume spike here. And it's very clear when you look at the numbers, when you look at the volume, when you look at the jawboning, and I've covered this video after video, that this is the Federal Reserve against silver. That is the game. That is the key place in the battlefield between the paper money printers, the Federal Reserve, and the rest of the central banks of the world, and the silver stackers. That is the battle for the value of the dollar and the value of other paper currencies. Silver is the battleground. The Fed and their minions know that. That's why they have them pre-positioned for a coordinated attack at the exact moment of the release of the Fed fake jawbone minutes. And it's now, as we have stacked more today, it's again volley over to the Fed. And we're going to see what they do next. and we'll talk to you next time.